I'm recording.
Good evening. Welcome to Rut Report number 2. We're on day 2 of 4 here in Missouri, and we had a hell of a day today, hell of a night. Didn't start off so hot. We got up this morning and we were facing like -6 temperatures in the tree, just brutal wind, swirling wind in some of the spots we were sitting. So we're going to kind of go through what we saw today from a deer aspect, and then just from a team aspect. We're kind of trying to hunt this together as a unit. And we found some success tonight, which we'll hear about as well. So Zach's going to chat a little bit about what he saw tonight in the tree.
Yeah, so this evening, Hunter and I were we went to a new spot. Just looking at the map, we found a good bottom that had beans in it, but it also had a bunch of ridges with draws feeding down into it. And so I actually got up in a saddle for the first time, and we went and set up. We had a couple different trails coming, and we found a perfect pinch point between these two fields with two draws feeding right into it. And luckily, we had a scrape there. And what was nice is we get set up as kind of slow for the first couple hours, but in the last hour, we ended up having 5 bucks. We had one within 50 who was not rutting at that point. He was just looking to feed and then go in bed. But shortly after, we had 3 other bucks cruising. And so we're going to be back out there tomorrow morning and hopefully get a chance.
All right. So we came in as a team, and Greg's going to talk a little bit about, Greg and Taylor will talk about what we encountered this evening.
So we had similar experiences this morning. Things were pretty slow. Movement was slow. So pulled out at lunch and decided to grab some food and as a team sit down, look at the maps and figure out what we wanted to do. And our big objective for this afternoon was we wanted to kind of transition into a spot that had all both like the geographical and topographical features of a true like pinch point, with the idea being that we wanted to be able to cover a travel corridor so that if and when a buck was to come through there, one of us was going to get a shot at it. Mm-hmm. So we really broke down, this is a giant unit. We broke it down into a very small piece that, based off the features that I previously mentioned, we thought we could cover an entire travel corridor so that if and when a buck were to come through, one of us would be able to get a shot at it. And Taylor can allude to more on that, but basically that's the way it played out, and it worked out really well for us tonight.
Yeah, it worked great. I mean, it was so awesome to be able to sit at lunch and like put our collective heads together, looking at the map and finding those features that we were looking for. So, I mean, we were looking for fingers of brushy cover, really looking for kind of doe bedding, and then those like natural funneling features to put deer together. And I mean, it's a wide area, and like you said, we're hunting as a team, and so for us to kind of line that area about 200 yards apart, we were a little closer. But to be able to do that, and I mean, we're bow hunting. Like, you have to be within like 40 yards, so you have an 80-yard window that you can shoot in, and we're hunting in a thick spot, so it's no given that you're going to have a shot at 40 yards or 30 yards or 20 yards even. So
and then like immediately tonight, so we get into this spot with a team mindset. I set up a little bit farther away, and immediately once I was in the saddle, deer started bedding or coming by, and one doe bedded pretty close to where my tree was. I ended up seeing a pretty decent buck, probably at 100 yards, and that was the first rutting activity that I really saw. I mean, his tarsal glands were getting peed on. He's rubbing his legs together, chasing does around, and really that kind of tipped off for all of us that, okay, now we're starting to see that. I'll let you kind of tell what happened next.
Yeah, so I mean, when we were walking in, we had divided up a finger, and the way that I came in with the other Taylor and Greg came in, we ended up bumping right into each other almost. So Greg called me and said, "Hey, I can see you." Look around, and sure enough, he's like, what were you, like 100 yards away maybe?
If that. Probably.
So like, literally after he calls me, he says, "There's a buck cruising right towards us." And sure enough, kind of like triangulated between us was this buck. He was clearly cruising. He's just out looking for activity. I think he got to 40 yards from me, right?
Yeah.
And so he didn't booger out of the area, but he knew something was wrong. But we were hunting that spot because of the wind and the other features.
And we were still downwind of him.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's pretty important.
Yes. And so he never smelled us.
He was down.
Downwind. Yeah, we were up one. So, he never smelled us. I think he knew something was wrong, but he kind of just skirted out of the area. But then you saw him come by you, and then he inevitably, eventually came back by me, and we were able to get a shot on him, and he didn't go too far and piled up. So, I mean, it's really a testament to, if you know what you look for in the maps, you figure out the wind, and kind of like do it as a team effort. Right. It's not my deer, it's our deer. Yeah. It just happened to walk by the tree that I was hanging it.
Yeah, and we never stepped foot in this area. I know we said that before, but I think that's a testament to sort of the crew atmosphere as well, as we're willing to go in, look at these different points, and basically cut off a buck's ability to enter or leave without one of us at least having an opportunity at him. And I don't know if there's a lot of guys that hunt that way, but
no, and I think that's kind of like situational based, right? Like this is unique. We have 4 days in a spot that we haven't hunted to get it done, and by breaking it down and moving and organizing the way we have, we're stacking the odds in our favor instead of, all of us just disappearing for 4 days, hoping we can figure it out. And honestly, we've learned a lot in the last couple of days by doing it that way, and I think we've really set ourselves up for success the next 2 days because of that as well.
And think about it. I mean, we're hunting public land in the Midwest. Right. This is not unpressured, like amazing ground. I mean, it's great ground, but I mean, it's public land, and not that that's in a negative connotation at all. But I mean, we have all seen deer every sit.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're picking the right spots. We're going about it the right way. And if you hunt intelligently and kind of put your minds together and have a meeting of the minds to put a game plan together, you're just that much stronger as a team.
Right.
Well, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a blast. So, I mean, where do you guys think we are with the rut? I mean, clearly, the buck that I shot, you saw dog and does. Yeah. I mean, he was cruising, but, he was the only buck that we saw tonight.
Yeah, it sounds like Zach had a little bit more rut activity than we saw. Some deer responding to some vocalizations and.
And I mean it was the last 20 minutes, but they were cruising in the field. The first one that came in, they got close. He was not ready. He was only thinking food and cover and bedding. But I do think these bucks are starting to get pretty curious, and I mean we could see it out in the field. It was dark, but you can tell when they're just sitting there cruising around. And he came in, just didn't happen to see anything he wanted, so he didn't come in within shooting range, but he was interested. And so I think it's starting to come. We had that cold snap, and now it's starting to get a little bit of a high pressure coming. I think we'll see more activity.
I think the weather has been the number one factor so far. I mean, the fact that it was so cold this morning. I mean, the deer we saw this morning had only one thing on their mind, and that was get calories and bed.
Yeah.
Right? And then, we had almost a 40-degree temperature swing today by the high.
Right.
And so for it to go from what it was to that, I think really spurred the movement. I think we're just going to see continued, rut activity over the next couple of days. So.
Yeah, I think what we've seen in this area, I mean, and this could be just, a little geographical pocket, but it seems like the does aren't quite ready yet. So I think as soon as that switch flips with what we've seen and change in buck activity over the last 2 days, it's going to get hot in a hurry.
They're just kicking those spawns off too. I mean, I saw it again tonight. It's barely happening, and
that's exactly what I was going to say. Like the key indicator to that, or for that to me, is the fact that if you see adult does with their fawns still, they're not close to being in heat yet, because they know what happens when they cycle and they kick those fawns away. So it's important if you're seeing that and you're a little further off.
Yeah.
Man, the gear worked great today. We had some great kits going. It was a little bit warmer, so those Solitude kits just performed extremely well. Less layers underneath is pretty awesome. So we're gonna keep it going for tomorrow. Check our stories out. We're gonna have some cool map stuff tomorrow, as well as some different areas, and we'll check back in tomorrow night for the recap of day 3. But this has been First Lite's Rut Report. Cheers.
Cheers.